Those of you who don't know me, my name is Alexandra von Hahn, and I promised you all that at 7 p.m. Dubai time or the UAE time, I'm going to be giving you a short instruction on how to prepare or roast Emirati coffee. Now again, for those of you who are on board now and don't know me and have not been on board for the last half minute or so. Again, my name is Alexandra von Hahn, and I am in the UAE conducting the research for my second Emirati cookbook. The first one is called The Culinary Magic of the Emirates. And on page, I think it's on page 153, I have a wonderful recipe on how to prepare Emirati coffee. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera and you will only see me towards the end. It'll be about 10 or 15 minutes instruction. And if you should see my hand has been designed with henna in preparation for a Emirati wedding tomorrow. So don't be surprised. Today the henna is orange on my hand and tomorrow it'll be dark brown. Okay, I'm going to switch now to, there we go. Okay. I'm going to start off with the following. You're going to see now my dalla, and dalla is the Emirati coffee pot, which consists of the following, which is very important. You have the beak, similar to the beak of a bird, and the ergonomic handle, which is here, long in order to be able to withstand the weight of 1 or 1.5 liters. And you have the top of the dalla, the name of the coffee pot, with 2 little round bulges. It's alleged that in the past there were 1 to 2 pebbles, and when the water was boiling, it would make this sound in order to indicate that the water is boiling. Okay, I'm now going to switch over towards the coffee, and here we go. For those of you who are going to be writing down the quantity of coffee, 2 cups of green coffee, which means raw coffee, unroasted coffee. Now, this particular green coffee that I have in front of me is from India, which is what is readily available here in the UAE. Otherwise, you can also buy the green coffee from Ethiopia. And if you're going to be buying your coffee from coffee roasters here in the UAE, and especially Abu Dhabi, Dubai, I would strongly suggest that you buy the Yemenite green coffee, which is what the Emirates used to use in the past. Otherwise, any green coffee will do, and then with time, you will then decide which flavor you prefer. Now, green coffee, what does that mean? The green coffee means that you will have to roast it yourself, or you can have it roasted in front of you at coffee roasters right across the UAE. And especially, as I said before, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I'm going to move the camera over. Now, the 2 cups, in this case, you will then be using 2 cups of the green bean coffee. And mine is from India. And you'll be roasting it with a wooden spoon. It's much easier. And you will be then moving the beans. Make sure that you're moving the beans constantly for at least 15 to 20 minutes in order to avoid burning or uneven roasting. This is what professional roasters do as well. They keep the beans moving until the shell from the coffee bean flies off or comes off. It's also known as flying coffee skin, which is what they like to call it as well. At any rate, the coffee can be roasted to different degrees. Either you have a light roasting. I'm going to move the camera now, and you can see this is lightly roasted and crushed. It's what the majority of the Emiratis really enjoy. They call it blonde or medium roast. Or you can have it and you can roast it until it's dark. And the dark coffee or the dark coffee beans are preferred by the older generation without any flavors at all. It is a coffee with lots and lots of bitter flavors and never drunk with sugar. Now I'm going to move the camera back again. So after 15 minutes or also 20 minutes, depending on the type of energy that you're using, either you're using fire or the electric range, at very low fire or very low, if it's between 1 and 10, you will use 3 or 4. It will take time. Just be patient, and you will be able to smell the wonderful fragrance coming from the roasted coffee. Once the coffee is roasted according to your liking, either a light roasting, as I showed before, or if you wish a darker roasting, or an in-between, you can also go that way. You will then take the beans and bring them into the mortar and pestle. Now, again, this is going to be your choice. You will either be pounding the coffee beans until they're powderized or crushed, as you see it here, or you can use your coffee grinder. Now, most prefer to use the coffee grinder, although I use for the time being the mortar and pestle. Now, the coffee in the Emirates is flavored. There's no sugar added, but they do add, and I'm going to give you now the quantity, 2 tablespoons of cardamom and 1 teaspoon of saffron. And if you wish, although this is optional, some Emiratis do it, 1 clove for 1 liter of Emirati coffee. What you would do then is take all 2 cups of roasted green coffee, which is no longer green. It can either be blonde, as the Emiratis like to call it, or a medium roast, or a medium light roast, or a dark roast. You will then be either, as I said before, pounding it all together, or you're going to be using your coffee grinder until you have reached the desired consistency of your coffee. Most often than not, it is actually ground at the level of espresso coffee. Meaning it's powderized. In my case, I have it crushed. I prefer it that way, although this is a personal preference. And once you have the coffee ready, what you will then do is place the coffee, not all 2 cups. You will now have an Emirati coffee ready for at least 40 to 60 guests. And if you have 4 or 5 guests, what you will then do is take 3 to 4 tablespoons of your ground coffee, place it into a pot with 1 liter of water, and bring it to a boil. Once it's boiling, you bring it down to simmer, and you will simmer it for approximately 20 to 25 minutes. After that, you will then pour it into the dalla, which is the coffee pot, the Emirati coffee pot. You can either choose the modern dalla, or there are still some left from 30 to 40 or 50 years ago. You can buy them here in the UAE if you're very lucky. Otherwise, there seems to be still some available in Oman, although they are from Oman at any rate. Once you've filled the coffee pot or the dalla with your coffee, you can then make sure, I'm going to try to open it. Yes, there we go. Then what you're going to do is add 1 tablespoon of crushed ginger into the coffee. Now, it's going to be also a question of whether you like ginger or not. It's a question of preference. You may like to add 1 tablespoon or only half a tablespoon of ginger into your coffee, or no ginger at all. Now, once the coffee and the ginger is in the dalla, you will then close it. There we go. Okay. And then pour it into the small finjan. The finjan is the name, here we go, is the name of the small cup, which is actually a demi-cup. As you can see, my cup has ears, or 1 ear. The Emiratis, they do not have coffee cups with ears or 1 ear. No, they have them without, and there's a very good reason for it. The guest will hold the cup between the thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger. And as you can see, it's only 1/3 full. And there's a reason for it. 1/3 full, which is an indication that the person who's pouring the coffee and extending it to the guests is a sign of respect, a sign of honor, and a sign of welcoming the guest to his or her home or at any public area where they're serving the coffee. If you are going to be touring in the United Arab Emirates, you're going to be greeted by most hotels, 4 or 5-star hotels, with a finjan filled 1/3 way or halfway full with Emirati coffee. Now you can see that the Emirati coffee does not resemble our coffee or our European coffee. It resembles a tea. From the flavor point of view, you actually get to experience the flavor of the bean. As I said before, together with the spices. You have your cardamom, you have your ginger, for those of you who opted for ginger, 1 clove, and no doubt cardamom, which has the largest amount of spice inside. Now, here comes the sign of greeting the guest, meaning that the person who's serving the coffee will hold the cup this way. This is to honor the guest, as I said before, and at the same time, the guest will have the facility to take the finjan or the demi-cup from the other side with his thumb, index, and middle finger, and completely at ease, and will not burn himself or herself. Now again, that is the etiquette or one of the protocol rules mentioned in the in the Emirates booklets that you are going to find as a tourist on how to drink and how to receive Emirati coffee from the person who's serving you the coffee. Again, and there are other rules as well. When you are being served Emirati coffee in a finjan, the server is not going to extend the cup towards your face. The person who's serving the Emirati coffee will slightly be bending down. At the same time, a sign of honor, welcoming you, and extending his arm towards your chest area so that it'll be comfortable for the person who's receiving the Emirati coffee and not be bothered by the fact that it is at eye level. Now, we're approaching towards the end, but I'm going to give you one more point, and that is if you, as a tourist, or if you're new here in the UAE, if you no longer wish to drink the Emirati coffee, in this country, in the Arabic language, the no is not a no. We don't use the no's here. We use the word or a signal, and the signal is the following. I'm going to lift the finjan. As opposed to saying no, I would simply jiggle the finjan or the demi-cup back and forth, indicating to the person, to the coffee server, that I no longer wish to drink coffee. Now, you're going to ask yourself, how many finjan coffees can I drink? Can I drink 1 or 2 or 3 or more? I have several answers. If you're invited at Emirati homes, 1 up to maximum 3. 1 or 2 is fine. It's a sign of elegance. 3, you haven't extended, but you have shown that you know the rules, that 3 is maximum. If you go beyond, then you have not learned the protocol or the etiquette of Emirati coffee drinking. It's a message. Definitely, it's a signal for the Emiratis and also the entire Gulf area, by the way. Now, I'm going to finish my session here with the following 2 pointers. In the past, as opposed to using a colander or a sieve, the Emiratis used the mesh from the date tree. And I'm going to show you. What they did, they pushed the mesh into the beak in order to filter the spices and the coffee beans. We use today a plastic sieve or a colander. And last but not least, optional as well, some Emiratis, they also prefer, or in the Gulf area, they prefer to use what we would term as cinnamon. In actual fact, this is cassia, very, very similar to the cinnamon that we know, but we use or here the Emiratis, they use very little of it. This is just to enhance the other flavors and not to be dominant in the Emirati coffee. Now, last point, the Emirati coffee is never drunk with sugar. It's drunk as is, and it's actually sipped very, very slowly. I'm going to switch the camera towards me now. Okay, here we go. At this stage, I would like to say thank you to all, and I hope you enjoyed the short session about Emirati coffee roasting. And I'm going to bring the camera over to my book on page 153. The person who's actually given me the recipe in this first Emirati cookbook, her name is Zahra Al-Nahdi, and she has one of the best coffee recipes in the book. I'm going to, in fact, photograph the recipe and upload it into into Facebook. I think it's just above this particular live video. Now here we go. There we go. You will find my cookbook right across the UAE at all major bookstores, Abu Dhabi Airport, Dubai Airport, as I said, all major bookstores, and also some of the independent stores. Now, with this thought in mind, I'll be surprising you next week with another 15-minute session of a different dish. And thank you to all, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Thank you.